Alright everyone, Thursday's video. Let's see what's going on at Celtic as we continue to amble towards Sunday's Scottish Cup tie against Hibs. By the way, and I should say this isn't anything to do with Celtic at all, but I guess it's today's edition of utter woke football nonsense. FIFA announced yesterday that the next World Cup final in 2026 is going to include a halftime show. Yes, really, a bit like the Super Bowl. In fact, very like the Super Bowl. I believe Coldplay are in charge of deciding who it's going to be, or certainly they're going to play a part in it. They're not actually going to play themselves. I don't really have anything else to add. I just really wish I had Stevie's thoughts on this now. And I don't actually. This isn't me playing it into Stevie coming on screen. I'd love to know what he thinks of it. Anyway, just before we get started today, everyone, I'm pleased to say that today's show has been created in collaboration with NordVPN, the legends who make it possible to watch your favourite content while you're travelling. Obviously, I'm a bit biased here, living in Australia, but being able to watch UK coverage of Celtic matches, whether it's in Sky Sports or Premier Sports from here in Australia, has been a complete godsend, and it's all down to NordVPN. When I watch Sky or Premier or Sports Scene on the BBC, I simply change my location to the UK and that's it. It's ideal for watching sports, Netflix, and regardless of where you are in the world, they're also the safest and fastest VPN. They protect you from malware, phishing and ads. They make it safer and more private for you online, and that makes them the perfect choice for anyone. So they've got a special birthday deal on at the moment. If you click on the link in the description, you'll get up to 70% off NordVPN's 2-year plans, as well as 6 months free. Okay, Celtic-wise, and the big news yesterday was that the SPFL have reached a decision in disciplinary action taken against ourselves, Motherwell and Rangers for pyrotechnic use in the League Cup semi-finals and final at the tail end of last year. You're likely to remember that kick-off in our semi-final against Aberdeen was delayed a fair bit, I think 14 minutes to be precise, due to pyro at Hampden. Our final against Rangers also suffered a delay. That was a 3-minute delay, while the Rangers and Motherwell semi-final kick-off was also delayed. Now, it's the SPFL who run the League Cup, and they've released their disciplinary outcomes yesterday. And in terms of Celtic, they say the following. The Commission found Celtic to have breached SPFL Rule H34 in respect of both the semi-final and final of the Premier Sports Cup. In respect of the breach regarding the semi-final of the Premier Sports Cup, the following sanction was imposed. A suspended sanction of a reduction of 800 tickets for a future Premier Sports Cup match to be played at Hampden Park in the event of another breach of SPFL Rule H34 through pyrotechnic use by supporters of the club in any SPFL competition before the 30th of March 2027. In respect of the breach at the final of the Premier Sports Cup final, don't know why they wrote that twice, the following sanction was imposed: an immediate reduction of 500 tickets for the next Premier Sports Cup match to be played at Hampden Park. So I'm not quite sure where the 800 and 500 come from, or why the one for the semi was a suspended sanction of 800, but the one for the final was an immediate sanction of 500. Basically, the story here is the next time we go to Hampden in the Premier Sports Cup, we'll have to do without 500 tickets. This won't apply to the Scottish Cup. It's key to point out. So if we beat Hibs on Sunday, we'll still have the full allocation for the semi-final at Hampden. But yeah, if there's a further offence in the League Cup before March 2027, which, let's face it, is probably likely. I mean, 2027 is a long time away. In fact, it's not really. It's only a couple of years, but it just seems a long time away. We'll be down 800 tickets for a future match. Interesting to me that they've chosen Hampden for this. I know that might make sense with it being at Hampden, but they could easily have imposed a ticket sanction on a game at Celtic Park, for example, or even possibly an away game like UEFA tend to do. So they obviously feel that by taking tickets away from Celtic fans for games at Hampden, where, let's face it, it's pretty difficult to try and get tickets for Celtic games at Hampden, then they obviously feel that's going to have some sort of impact on this, and it's going to stamp it out. So, Celtic put out a statement in response to this. It read, Celtic Football Club notes today's SPFL judgment relating to the use of pyrotechnics at matches. Clearly, it is hugely disappointing that our wider support will be negatively affected at future SPFL League Cup matches at Hampden following the actions of a small minority. It is well known that we also currently face a UEFA suspended sentence as a result of the previous use of pyrotechnics, most recently at the match against Borussia Dortmund, by a small minority of supporters, something which could potentially have a negative and damaging impact on the team and Celtic supporters wishing to attend an away match in UEFA competition to support the team. The club has been very clear that the use of fireworks and pyrotechnics at matches is illegal and presents risks to supporter safety and to the club under the applicable regulations. The fact that the use of pyrotechnics by a small minority is now adversely affecting the attendance of our supporters at matches should act as a very serious wake-up call to those involved. So a very serious wake-up call. Those are pretty strong words being used by Celtic, who quite simply here have had enough. And I know it's the whole pyro stuff is a very divisive issue because people have their thoughts on pyro, and then other people have their thoughts on like the rules, and the fact that regardless of what your thoughts are on pyro, the rules are the rules. Just because you disagree with a law doesn't mean you can just go out and break the law and say, I disagree. Having said that, I do think that it's just my own opinion, so please nobody get too frustrated. It's just my opinion. I think the pyro at times at these League Cup semi-finals and finals, where it tends to be dark at kick-off these days for these matches, I think it does add something to the atmosphere, and I've actually quite enjoyed it recently. We've had it's been virtually every semi-final and final in recent years, and let's face it, we've had a lot of them as Celtic fans, and I do think they add something to the occasion. They enhance the atmosphere ahead of kick-off in these matches. I also dispute the wording in the SPFL statement at times. They talk about kick-off being delayed before the Aberdeen semi, causing a significant inconvenience to fans watching around the world. I mean, come on, it was not a significant inconvenience. We just had to wait 10 minutes on kick-off, and then the game just happened as it was anyway. If anything, people got to go and make a cup of tea or whatever, or stare at their phones and, I don't know, play. I don't even know what games are on these days. But I think it's a little bit over the top. Personally, I would like a proper conversation about pyro. I think Norway, they have it. They can use it safely. I was looking into it earlier. There's even government legislation in Norway that allows it to be used safely. My preference would be for Scotland to have that kind of, they always say, a grown-up conversation about pyro. I guess also, as much as I say that, what I would say is now that it is seriously, affecting supporters being able to go to matches. We're walking a tightrope with UEFA, who don't mess about at all. And now there's signs of the SPFL starting to grow a bit of a backbone with these things. I can't ever remember them dishing out a supporter ban for pyro use. So they're obviously at the end of their tether. And I do think it's time that we abide by them as supporters, even if we don't agree with it. Do we want to get to the stage where 500 tickets is one thing, but if it happens again and again and again, that's only going to go up? Do we want a stage where there's thousands of empty seats at Hampden and Celtic fans missing out in the game? Because at the end of the day, you can disagree or agree with the rule. It is the rule. That's kind of how I feel. I like it generally, but also I'm very aware that I'm fortunate I don't have any kind of breathing issues or worries that maybe pyrotechnics could, hurt me in certain ways. So I'm pretty privileged in that way. Not everyone's in that place, and a lot of people might feel unsafe with them. So again, just my opinion. But I am saying that I think, we should just ditch them now. Let's not have fans missing games. Certainly in Europe, it's becoming a real worry for Celtic, and Celtic certainly feel very strongly about this. So that's the situation. The next time we play at Hampden in the League Cup, assume it'll be a semi-final. We'll have 500 empty seats, I guess, in the Celtic end. I assume that's the way it's going to go. Anyway, moving on, I see Bayern Munich thrashed Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 in the Champions League last night, so they're basically through to the quarter-finals. I think they're most likely to play Inter Milan there. Potentially, if they get to the semis, you could be looking at Barcelona. I just wonder if we're going to be looking at Bayern Munich ending up doing really well in this Champions League and viewing that tie we had against them as like a really positive moment for Celtic, as much as we went out of the competition. Almost viewing it like, remember when we played AC Milan in the 06-07 season and took them to extra time and Kaka scored that belter, and then Milan went on to win the tournament in Greece that year. I just wonder if we might view this similarly, but yeah, it's. I was actually watching the highlights from that Bayern Celtic game yesterday, and yeah, I still just feel so great about the way the team played that night, and it just fills you with so much confidence going forward next season, especially when like Kieran Tierney's going to be there. I see he came on for Arsenal the other night in the Champions League, so he's still going strong there. I also enjoyed Jose Mourinho's response to being asked whether he could see himself managing Celtic or, for some reason, Rangers in the future. The reason he's been asked about this by the Scottish media is that his Fenerbahce side face Rangers in the Europa League this evening. The Scottish media obviously saw their opportunity to talk Scottish football with one of the most iconic managers of the 21st century. Mourinho said, and I'm going to do my best here to actually put across how he said this. I'm not doing an accent. Definitely not doing the accent. Celtic and Rangers are big clubs with big fan bases, big emotion, big responsibilities, and big expectations. Why not? But in this moment, I have a job. Celtic has a fantastic coach like Brendan. Rangers has Ferguson. When you put it like that, it's hard to argue. In terms of Sunday, just a little update on ticket sales. Hibs have announced that they've passed the 6,600 mark, so seems pretty likely they're going to sell their full 7,000. In terms of the Celtic end, if I just fire on to the e-ticketing website now, it does look like there's a fair amount of tickets left, and apologies to any podcast listeners, by the way, but basically you've got the vast majority of sections blue, and it kind of makes you think, oh god, is it going to be half full, the stadium? But it is a little bit deceiving, because if you actually go into different sections, so let's head into 140 right behind the goal, for example, yeah, there's really not many seats left, and even in the upper tiers as well, it's basically, in fact, not basically, it is all single seats that are left. If you try and search for two seats together, you will really struggle. So, yeah, the stadium, I think, is going to be pretty full. We're going to be heading for a crowd of 60,000, something like that. Pretty close, I think. And yeah, if you fancy going along yourself or don't mind sitting on your own, then tickets are available. They're on general sale at the moment, but just can't wait for Sunday. As I said at the top of the show, we're gradually getting towards kickoff. Just another thing, fans of the Overlap, I don't know if you watch the Overlap on YouTube, you may be interested to hear that this week's show will have a current Celtic player involved, and it's obviously going to be Kasper Schmeichel. He's their special guest this week, joining Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Jill Scott, as well as former Celtic pair Ian Wright and Roy Keane. So yeah, it's the usual setup. They're sitting around the table, eating croissants and stuff like that, and I guess Celtic's going to come up a fair bit about Kasper Schmeichel. Hopefully they spend a good amount of time on it. I was a bit disappointed at the recent Martin O'Neill one, when they spent more time talking about Aston Villa playing in a cup final against Man United than Celtic's UEFA Cup final against Porto, the team who went on to win the Champions League the next year. But I guess that's the whole English slant and things. So fully expect them to spend half an hour talking about Leicester's title triumph and then 30 seconds on Celtic. But hopefully there's plenty of stuff about the current Celtic team, and maybe plenty of good insights from Kasper Schmeichel. I'm sure he'll speak very positively about his time at the club. And yeah, that's where we're at just now. Various wee things happening here or there, but I can't shake the feeling of the calm before the storm that is Sunday. The players will have been back at Lennoxtown after getting a few days off at the start of the week, so they should be feeling ready to go for Sunday. There are some injury questions, I think, to be asked and answered by Brendan Rodgers. He should speak to the media tomorrow. I would think Callum McGregor and Austin Trusty both went off in Paisley on Saturday evening. Brendan Rodgers sounded pretty positive about both and their hopes of being back, I think, for this weekend. Maybe questions about a potential concussion with Trusty. Probably not going to be the case, though. Callum McGregor should be back as well. Just watching the game back, actually, from Saturday, and it was a pretty bruising match overall. There was a number of players who took sore ones at various times. A lot of stoppages as well. I think we got a fair bit of stoppage time, didn't we? Certainly in the first half. And I did notice a few players. I think Engels took a bit of a sore one at one stage, and obviously Trusty went off. And Liam Scales, who came on for Trusty, took a bit of a sore one. Actually, for the free kick that Declan John swung in, Scales looked like he took quite a sore one in his face. So, yeah, we'll find out from Brendan Rodgers if there's anything there with any of those players. Hopefully we've not picked up any more knocks, but I wouldn't be totally surprised. James Forrest as well potentially could be back this weekend. He's been nearing a return for a fair amount of time, so that would be a bit of a boost as well if we find out all of that. So, yeah, we're ticking gradually on towards the weekend. For now, though, I'll say goodbye and return this time tomorrow.